Hey everybody, it's James from Wealthquest. Hey, we had another great question from a client that came in after we did the January effect discussion a couple weeks ago. He was asking about the Super Bowl indicator and yet another random pattern that people have found and trying to draw some kind of conclusion from it. And since it was Super Bowl Sunday and since the Patriots won yet again, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the Super Bowl indicator for a second and then dive a little bit deeper. You know, this whole idea of the Super Bowl indicator came in 1978. Way back then, a New York Times writer found this pattern in the data that said that when the AFC would win the Super Bowl, the stock market would be down that year on average. And when the NFC would win the Super Bowl, the stock market would be up. And at the time, the data was actually pretty compelling, even though it was completely irrelevant. And there was no way on earth that a Super Bowl outcome had anything to do with the economy and anything to do with the stock market. People started to see this data and they thought that pattern might really exist. But since then, it's been terrible. And part of the reason it's been terrible is because the Patriots keep winning the stupid game. And so what happens is the AFC keeps showing these wins and the market doesn't go down that many years. About 80% of the time, the stock market is up. And so if the AFC is winning that often in the last decade or 18 years or whatever it's been for Brady, we're going to see some of the data start to not prove this pattern out as true. And so the funny thing is, as I was thinking about this problem of us being desperate to find this pattern, it brought me back to a behavioral finance study that they did in 2002, where they basically proved that rats are better investors than humans. Now let me explain what I mean by that. They did this experiment where they basically would feed the rat a pellet if they guessed correctly whether a green light would flash or a red light would flash. And it was totally random, but it was designed to mimic the stock market in that 80% of the time the green light would flash. In other words, 80% of the time the stock market's up. And 20% of the time, randomly, the red light would flash. Now the interesting thing is it took the rats no time to figure out that all they need to do is keep picking the green bar. If they keep hitting the green bar, 80% of the time they got a food pellet, and every now and then they got shocked. But it was worth the food pellet to stay on that green bar. Then they replicated that same study with humans. They didn't shock them, but they said it was an investment. And if you picked the red light investment, you lost money. And if you picked the green light investment, you would win. And so it was always the case that the green investment won, and it was always the case that the red investment would lose. And yet, we as humans were trying to find a pattern where there was no pattern. And so even though the rat figured out pretty quickly, just keep picking green, we kept trying to pick the red one. We kept trying to figure out how to beat the system, how to somehow find the pattern inside the randomness. And there wasn't one. And so it just brings to bear this idea that as we keep trying to find a tool or a secret or some methodology that's going to somehow beat the market, that's a thought we got to stop having. Our job isn't to beat the market. The market is a very powerful force. Our job is to just harness its power, to take advantage of the growth that it offers us and understand 80% of the time we're going to win. And every now and then we may find a year like last year where we had a negative year, but that's okay. That's part of the randomness. And we don't have any way to enjoy that ride other than to just let it be what it is and continue to do the right things. Continue to choose the path that 80% of the time is the winning path. Hey everybody, thanks again for watching the video. We hope you liked it. If you do, please send us some comments and some emails or give us a call, whatever the topics are that you want us to be talking about. We really want to address those ideas. And so we always enjoy talking about the things you're interested in. We hope you all have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.